road from Boundary Post 42 at Namkam is an American who has spent all of his life in Burma and on this road.
Ribbon, please.
Dr. Gordon Seagrove, former Baptist missionary, jungle surgeon who walked out of Burma with Stilwell in 1941's humiliating defeat, walked back in 1945 to find his hospital in the hills in total ruins. His nurses, too, representing all the races of Burma, have endured war and rebellion to win the gratitude and respect of the Burmese nation and hundreds of American GIs who owe their lives to them. Several generations of hill tribes, the Kachins, the Shans, the Palaungs, the Lishus, have had their malaria and their tuberculosis and their gonorrhea and their cancers treated by Daddy Seagrave and only him. His pay is $90 a month. Today, at 59, suffering from dysentery and malaria, partially the result of imprisonment by the Burmese for treason, he was later cleared. Seagrave is both old and a legend before his time.
Dr. Seagrave, just how far are you from the Chinese border?
Only a mile, really. It's just an air mile over to the tongue of China that comes into Burma here. And the lowest administrative point in communist China is right across there in that large village that you see across the river. And then the high mountains beyond that are back in Burma again. That makes a rather difficult border situation for Burma to take care of. Quite a number of the people from China come over here. We report to the government checks on their background, and if they're over here for real illness, the government gives us permission to go ahead and treat them, because that's part of the government policy is to treat them properly.
This is a rather explosive border situation you're living in, isn't it?
Well, we are actually sitting right on the lid. Of course, my first responsibility is to the government of Burma. I must not be the cause of trouble between Burma and China. And then my gratitude to Burma is so great that if an explosion ever occurred, if the lid ever blew off, what I would do then would be to offer my services to the army of Burma and take care of their casualties, just as long as I'm alive. That's the only way that I can discharge my responsibility to a country that's been as friendly to me as this country has.
Doctor, I think many Americans would be interested in hearing your story of how you were arrested and imprisoned in 1950 and 51.
My trouble was that we had been serving Burma for so many, many years, well over 100 years, that I thought I was above suspicion. Then another thing that got me into trouble was the fact that I was born among the Karens, and the first language that I ever learned was Karen. And they believed, of course, that my heart was with the Karens, you see.
You were arrested here?
Yes. I was actually finishing my morning coffee when they came to the house. And I was taken down to Rangoon, and then I was given the chance to get out of the country without a trial.
Why didn't you?
I didn't want to leave here as a traitor. I didn't want the people in Burma to believe that I was a traitor. I didn't want the people in America to believe that I was guilty of treason against this country. Americans loved the people of Burma. The Americans that fought here in Burma loved the people of Burma. And if I'd gone back to America without a trial, I would have merely convicted myself of treason. And I didn't believe I was guilty of treason. Now, I didn't know, actually, what the state of justice was in Burma, I'll admit. And there at the beginning, I felt that I was being abused. But one of my fellow prisoners in the jail said, I didn't need to worry about the justice of Burma. That was one thing that Burma had a right to be proud of. And he was right.
Was your lawyer an American, Dr. Seagrave?
My lawyer was anything but an American. My lawyer was a Burmese, one of the finest men in Burma. Some of my old friends of the China-Burma-India Theater wrote me a letter from Denver saying that they would send one of these high-powered American lawyers out here to defend me. And I didn't want that, because I wanted to trust the justice of the people of Burma. I think that would have been the worst mistake I ever made if I'd brought an American lawyer out here to pound on the table and do that sort of thing. It was much better being cleared by Burmese.
Doctor, how is America doing in this part of the world?
I think America is doing a whole lot better than Americans sometimes realize. There was a bit of a strain back there at the time of that the nationalist Chinese aggression was taking place in Burma, because for months after it began, America didn't seem to pay any attention to it. And they were tearing this country apart. And just because they used the word nationalist, America seemed to think that that aggression didn't amount to much, that it was justified in some way or other. And some Americans claimed that these were the only Chinese that were really fighting the communists, and therefore Burma ought to be more tolerant. Well, I didn't feel that way at all, because the Chinese nationalists had been around here and had been shooting things up right and left. They weren't here to base themselves for a drive against China at all. They were here just for their own personal aggrandizement. But then, as soon as President Eisenhower got well settled into the presidency, he began to get reports from the ambassador in Rangoon, and American reaction changed, and America helped get rid of those people, and I think American prestige went up immensely.
The business of Burma is rice.